and welcome to this week's video blog. I'm Sarah Hammerkurt and I'm glad you joined me. Today I want to talk about the blessing of siblings. Parents often plan how many kids to have based on the number of children they think they can handle. Sometimes that number is influenced by their own childhoods or by seeing how the children of relatives or friends behave. What we usually fail to consider is that what a healthy relationship with brothers and sisters gives a child. Almost from the time of our birth, we share with siblings our innermost thoughts, dreams, and ideas. Together we explore, we collaborate, conspire, and protect. We goad each other to do both good and some bad things. We play together, we torment each other at times, counsel each other, and comfort one another. For better or for worse, our brothers and sisters become a large part of who we are. Often those relationships outlast parents, spouses, and friends. With brothers and sisters, you share a history, the good and the bad. And sometimes we forget that there's a blessing to siblings. I listen to my older siblings share about their childhood, and I can just see the love they had for one another. Especially when I was younger, I love listening to their stories. Now, I'm one of 6, and my older siblings are 11, 13, and 15 years older than me. So I was kind of like a only youngest child for a while. And it was just so much fun to listen to their stories. I used to love to hear their stories and just to see how much they love one another and laughed. They had some really funny stories. And then my parents adopted twins who are 14 years younger than me, a boy-girl twins. So that made up our 6 family. And I always wanted a little closer siblings, but I just love my siblings now. And it's been such a blessing to have them in my life. And you know, when we share memories of childhood adventures and the not so fun things parents made you do, it can forge a bond that is so strong. The fact is that siblings are the ones who are going to be with us most of our lives. Siblings will likely outlive their parents, and their spouses come later in life. Brother and sister are the only ones who are more like life partners. That family history that links us together through the years can be so strong. Brothers and sisters also share the load of family crisis, such as the death of a parent or illness of an elderly relative. Having that extra emotional support can make a huge difference in the quality of life for the siblings. And I can attest to the fact that when my dad was ill with Alzheimer's, it was such a blessing to know I had 5 brothers and sisters to help me carry the load. I didn't have to do it by myself. We worked together to do it. That was so wonderful. And now we're working together to help take care of my mom as well. In addition, living with siblings gives us a leg up in social settings. We become more in tune with the emotion of others. We can learn important social cues and figure out how to interact with others, including members of the opposite sex if you have brothers and sisters in the household. Sisters initiate brothers into the feminine mystique, and while brothers give girls clue about the world of boys. And it can be, you don't think about what a blessing it is when you have siblings, or you grew up with siblings, or your kids have siblings. Sometimes we only focus on the fighting part of it, and I think we need to really remember that we're really giving our kids a gift. There is a blessing to having a sibling. And the bond between siblings can be especially bittersweet when parents become elderly and are in need of assistance. And you can when you think about why you want your kids to get along and why it's a blessing to have them, think in the future. Some people are like, well, you have 4 kids. I'm like, yeah, I want 4 different places to live when I get older. You want them to, I want my kids to love me because one day they may be deciding where I live. There's things that we really want them to have a close bond and be able to work well together and have that blessing of being a sibling together. Those shared experiences in childhood can bloom into an even bigger blessing later on in life. There's a quote that I love from Jeffrey Kluger, who wrote a book on siblings. With Americans living longer than ever, increasing number of us will be launched into an old age in which we outlived our friends, our parents, and even our spouses, while our children and grandchildren have scattered to distant cities. For plenty of us, the only ones left at the end of the dance will be the ones that brung us, the brothers and sisters who have been with us the longest, loved us the hardest, and by a wide margin knows us best. What a wonderful blessing that's going to be. Have you ever seen your kids stick up for one another, even when the odds were against them? The loyalty that our kids show one another later can manifest it later in life with beautiful friendships. When siblings often take the place of parents in the family dynamic after the death of a mom or dad. So those ties that the kids forge are they're going to bring wonderful dividends later in life. Siblings also provide us with a way to view the world from someone else's perspective. They have a knack for taking us down a peg or two when our ego gets too big, right? But they also prop us back up when life knocks us down. The trials and tribulations one sibling face often spur the others to develop a more understanding and compassionate view of the world. You see this sometimes in families where one sibling has a learning or physical disability, how that they just develop this wonderful compassionate and understanding world, and how they can learn just to love that sibling, learn to love each other, and develop that strong bond. So siblings can be a blessing in disguise. As you raise your kids, the attachment they form will likely transcend current conflicts and mold them into better human beings in the process. And you get little glimpses of this, don't you, when your kids can recognize the blessing that they have? The way that when my children are encouraging one another to do well on a test or to tackle something that they see one on another struggle with, it can be so, just really makes your mama heart glad. And I'll share one example. This happened several years ago when one of my second son wanted to go up the diving board at the pool so badly, but he was scared. And I remember his sisters sitting on the side of the pool encouraging him on. They weren't teasing him like they do sometimes. They weren't being mean to him. They were just shouting at him how much they could do it, how they knew they could do it, how they were rooting for him to jump off that diving board. And you can see his little body, he's all there shaking on the end of the board. And they just kept encouraging him and encouraging him. And finally he jumped off and swam to the side, and they were there cheering him on and so happy. It was a very small thing, but it really just touched my heart and made me remember just what a blessing siblings can be. Thank you for joining me, and I hope I'll see you next week.